Hi guys, my name is Roasty. I'm joined today by my friend Official Newbie, and today we're going to be going through kind of a session zero of what this series is and what we intend to do with it, and kind of the foundational elements of what you should know before you hop into your first Tarkov raid. As for myself, I've been playing Tarkov since 2017 when it first came out. I've been through the game through, highs and lows, all the different iterations. So I have, let's call it a working knowledge of how the game works. And as for Newbie, have you played any Tarkov yet?
I've played on and off for a couple wipes, but I have not really ever learned how this game fully works.
Okay, so
Like,
you're kind of
maybe-
perfect.
Yeah, I really have no actual experience with the game, like how it's supposed to be played.
Okay, so yeah, you're kind of perfect for this series then, because you have like the foundational FPS knowledge, but you just don't know how this particular game works. And that's kind of what I'm trying. That's the kind of target audience I'm reaching for, is people who have played shooters and like kind of understand how to click on a head, but just don't know how Tarkov in particular works. So that kind of works out well. As for this first session, we're not going to be hopping into any raids today. What we're going to be covering is the things that you should know before you hop into your first raid. So I've got my game here, and we'll kind of go over. Most of this is going to be personal preference. I prefer to have my quick slots, my stamina and stance, health condition, and all that. I prefer to have that always shown. That's not a hard and fast rule. That's just how I like it.
Right. I will try that as well.
Okay, so the health color scheme, that's just going to give you a little more detail at a glance as to the exact health of your character. So it uses the color, like green means it's fine, yellow means it's orange means this is approaching bad, and red means holy shit, this is fucking horrible. And then black is just like, well, you don't have this limb anymore. If you switch it to standard, it's going to go green, red, black. And that's it.
Okay.
Highlight available operations, that's just a quality of life thing for the inventory. If you're new, I suggest you turn it on so you know what can possibly go where.
Is that everything? Turn everything on for that?
If you're new, I'd say everything, yeah.
Okay.
If you're, if you've been around for a little while, you may not necessarily need all of that.
It might be helpful for me.
Yeah,
so I feel like
I'll
turn it on for now.
It might be helpful if this is your first or second wipe and you're still kind of figuring out what can go where. And for like M-lock attachments, especially where you need like a guide to attach to the handguard that you then attach like a foregrip to, it can be very helpful for that.
All right.
As for the automatic RAM cleaner, now this is a feature for people with lower RAM amounts. I have 16 gigabytes. I play with it on. If you have like anywhere northward of 16, I'd say probably you can leave that off. It won't positively or negatively impact your performance. I use it, but that's not necessarily a requirement. Use only physical cores. So if you are multi-threading, turn that off.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. If you know what a thread ripper is, you probably already know, but
yeah, I do not have a thread ripper.
Okay. So yeah.
I only have an i7 6700K, and I don't think it's multi-threading, so I think I will leave that on.
Leave it on, turn it off. That kind of is, to your own PC's specifications. Now, FOV. This game treats FOV differently than pretty much every other game that I can think of, at least. 59 FOV in this game equals 90 FOV in your standard shooter.
Is it 59?
59 FOV equals 90 FOV in pretty much any other shooter.
Okay.
A lot of people, the first thing that they do, they max the FOV out. Gives you that kind of fisheye lens effect, and it's really difficult to see people. The maximum I would go would probably be 70.
I don't think I've ever changed it from default every time I've played this game.
It's not a requirement. I think I play at 55 just to zoom myself in a little bit because I find it helps visibility. But that's not a requirement either. That is just my preference. Head bobbing should be set as low as you can possibly get it because it's just nauseating. And we're finished with this screen. We can move over to graphics. Your texture quality should be as high as you want to get it. Tarkov is a very CPU bound game. So you want to shift as much of the stress as possible over to your graphics card. So your texture quality, your shadow quality, as high as you're comfortable putting it. Shadow quality doesn't necessarily have to be at ultra. High will do. It will still shift over to the graphics card. Object LOD quality as low as you can possibly get it. You don't care how many grains of sand are sitting on top of this water bottle. You care about the PMC sitting down the hallway. So that should be as low as possible. Overall visibility, I would set this to 1500, at most 2000. That would be my advice.
Right. Oh, is that like how far you can see like in the maps?
The only maps that you're really going to take advantage of the max visibility is going to be literally from one side of woods to the other side of woods where you can see across that lake. So other than that, I mean, you don't really need that much. Shadow visibility as low as possible. That will boost your frames by probably a good 10% if you set that down to 40. The anti-aliasing, typically I advise you turn off anti-aliasing, but in this game, the TAA actually is pretty well implemented, and the aliasing without it is actually quite bad. So I would recommend TAA. Resampling, don't change that. Leave that at 1x. As for the rest of this stuff, HBAO, SSR, anisotropic filtering, turn all those off. Those are just post-processing effects. They're not really useful for anything. They'll just take away a little bit from your FPS. Nvidia Reflex low latency. If you are on an RTX-enabled card, this will significantly boost your frames. I recommend having it on or on and boost.
Okay.
Not frames, latency, system latency. That's my bad.
I think it will just leave it on like that because I don't know I don't understand what the boost does yet.
Boost just shifts stress from CPU to GPU.
Oh, okay.
So I would suggest doing the boost.
Let's just turn it
on. Sharpness. So a lot of people keep it at 0.7, which is the default. That's fine. I have found that if you are a streamer, you should turn sharpness off. Because it significantly impacts, like, what you see on your screen is fine, but what your stream sees will look awful because of the sharpness. So that's my advice. Your lobby FPS limit, your game FPS limit, those should be as high as possible because, I mean, they're not. The limits are like 60 and 144 if I remember correctly.
I see why remember when I was saying my game caps at 120? My Nvidia Reflex caps it at 120.
That'd do it.
That's all right.
Let's see. As for those down at the bottom, just turn all those off. I have never really found where those helped me very much. And you can go ahead and...
Yeah, I don't really know any of those.
Go ahead and hit save. We'll come back to the options screen, but just to make sure we don't lose our place. Post effects. So this is all...
I will say I was messing with this like a day ago when I put in my new GPU.
The post effects is all personal preference. Mine are unlike any other like streamers or personalities or like anybody else's because I did what you did. I just walked into an offline raid, messed with my post effects settings until I liked it, and boom, done. Some people prefer to change their post effects settings for different maps. I don't do that. It's not something I ever really wanted to mess with.
Right.
As for sound,
I just made it a little bit more colorful is all.
Yeah, that's pretty common, is people just make it a little more colorful, make it a little brighter. As for sound, I can't remember any changes that, well, I would turn interface dump volume down to like 30 or so that when you're messing with inventory in the raid, you're not drowning out like footstep sounds.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Other than that,
I actually don't think I ever thought of that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was an actual setting to lower that volume.
Yeah, it's not that important, but it's there.
That's probably why I was dying all the time.
It's possible.
Or I was ratting out.
Binaural audio, I don't know if that's working right now. It's just like a different, I'm not really sure how to put it. It changes the way sound works.
Okay.
I don't know if I would do that right now. I would just leave that alone. And that's about it. Obviously, keybinds, change those to your liking. The only keybind that I will advise that you do is if you go to controls and find where it says disable, or not disable, discard item, set that to a key. So that way when you're just in your inventory in the raid, you don't have to like right click and discard.
Just the discard
Yeah,
right here?
just you can keep that on a keybind. It's pretty close to where your hand's going to be at anyway, because you will need it to inventory management in
there.
And that is about it for the settings. So now we can get to the in-game stuff that you should do before your first raid. Before your first raid, what I would do, go to trading. And I think I see from your handbook down there that you've already done this. Go into each of the traders and just inspect everything that they have.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
This gives you enough experience that you can get from level 1 to level 2 without ever stepping into a raid. And that is actually very important, because my advice to most players is that your first raid should not be on customs, where the first prapper task is. It should actually be on woods. And the reason that I recommend that to people is because you can get the 2 shotguns that you need for prapper's first task. You can just buy them from Jaeger and hand them over. So if you go to woods for that first task, grab the Jaeger letter and unlock Jaeger in your first quest, that makes the rest of your progression just that much exponentially faster. And when you're early wipe, when you're first starting out with everybody else, that will help you out a lot. It'll, put you just a little bit ahead of everybody else. And that can be a game changer for the first, 2-3 days of wipe. Now, for you coming in, you are coming in actually about exactly a month after wipe. So that's not going to be as important for you, but it still will give you a little bit of a boost off the start. Hideout, there isn't really much to do off the rip. There are some things that you can do for just like rubles. And another tip that I would give you before you step into your first raid, sell your hats. Because
sell my hat.
Yeah, so they start you off with like 2 or 3, just like whether you choose bear or USEC, you get like 2 bear hats or 2 USEC hats. Sell those to Ragman.
Okay.
There's going to be some things in your inventory when you first start out that you are just straight up not going to use. Like I think they start you with a whiskey and
oh yeah,
and like hats
whiskey
and that kind of thing. That's just superfluous stuff. You're not going to use that. If you're trying to min-max your profit here, just sell that stuff. You're not going to need it. I think you can sell the whiskey to a therapist for the most. I may be mistaken on that. Now they've changed the way flea market works. So you're not going to get flea market until level 20, at least for this wipe. For patch 12.11, you are not going to get flea market until 20. So that changes the economy quite a bit. Now you don't have to deal with the worst of that since, like I said, you're coming in a month after wipe. But that, it's still a consideration for, what you're grabbing and what not to. Typically in past wipes, what people have said is, when you're in a raid, grab construction materials, grab, all the stuff that people need for hideout, so you can then turn around and sell that on flea when you hit level 10. You are probably not going to hit level 10 for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Or level 20, my bad. You're not going to hit flea for a couple of weeks, just because of the, the cadence that we're expecting to play at. So don't load up your hideout or your inventory with superfluous construction stuff that you may or may not end up using if you're not, super focused on leveling your hideout, expecting to turn a huge profit, because you're not going to get there till 20.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, that is a 12.11 recommendation for now. Whether or not it stays 20 in future wipes, or if they're going to say, well, maybe 20 is a little much, we'll go down to 15. We don't know. We'll kind of find out next time we wipe. But as of right now, you get flea market at 20. So did you yourself have any questions that I can answer before we hop off today?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head yet.
Okay. So if you guys watching have any questions, leave them in the comments down below and we'll address them at the end of the next episode. But as for right now, that will be all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one.
Bye.